Yesterday we gave an introduction to the second half of the Shulchan Aruch Sif Aleph. He starts to talk about Plaga Mincha. So we gave an introduction, what are Sho'is Zmanya, seasonal hours. So we explained that it works like this. First of all, what's Plaga Mincha? We explained that Plaga Mincha is halfway between Mincha Ketana and Shkia. Mincha Ketana is the time they would generally bring the afternoon korban at 9.5 hours into the day, and Shkia sunset is 12 hours. So halfway between 9.5 and 12 is 10 3/4. That's Plaga Mincha. Plaga literally means half. That's Plaga Mincha, 10 3/4 hours, an hour and a quarter before sunset. We explained that these hours are not hours, not 60-minute hours. These hours are parts of the day. So you have to split up the. Sorry? That's right. So one has to split them out, split up the day into 12, and after 10 3/4 hours, that's Plaga Mincha. And we mentioned this machlokes, if when you divide up the day, do you take it from sunrise to sunset, from Nates to Shkia, or do you take it from Alois to Tzeitzakochovim, daybreak until when the stars come out? Right? Which is, we're probably familiar with this from Kriyat Shema, when there's two times for Kriyat Shema. There's the time of the Mogen Avram and the time of the Gra. The time of the Mogen Avram is slightly earlier than the time of the Gra, because the Mogen Avram time is calculated from daybreak till nightfall, whereas the time of the Gra is calculated from sunrise to sunset. Okay? Let's now read the Shulchan Aruch. We can read again from the beginning of Sif Aleph. So we already read the first half with the Mishavur, but we'll start reading from the beginning again. I'm
sorry, where are we?
We're in Siman Tov, Reish, Ayin, Beis.
Okay.
And we're going to start again reading from the beginning of Sif Aleph. We've already read the first half of the first Sif, but we'll start again from the beginning. Okay. Ein madlikim na Chanukah kodem shetishkach chamo, elo im sof shkiyasa. So the Shulchan Aruch says that you mustn't light na Chanukah before Shkia. Elo im sof shkiyasa, which means it's Tzeitzakochovim, when the stars come out. Lo ma'achrim v'lo magdim, you mustn't light earlier or later. V'yish mishaymah. There is an opinion that holds shemu torud, if he's busy and he won't be able to light after Shkia, after Tzeitzakochovim. Then you can light already from Plaga Mincha, which we said is an hour and a quarter before Shkia. As long as he puts in enough oil to last until people stop walking around outside, right? Which is that half an hour of oil he needs. That half an hour has to be from Tzeitzakochovim. The lights have to be alight for half an hour after Tzeitzakochovim. So if he lights after Plaga Mincha, then the lights will have to be alight all the way from Plaga Mincha all the way to Tzeitzakochovim, plus the extra half an hour from Tzeitzakochovim while people are still walking around outside. Okay? Okay. So obviously the halacha is preferably one should light as in the correct time, like the Shulchan Aruch said. But if it's impossible, if you can't light that time, one can always light earlier, as long as he's lighting after Plaga Mincha. Okay? Let's have a look at the Mishavur. He won't have time afterwards. If he knows he's not going to have time after nightfall to light, then he can light from Plaga Mincha. So Kotten Gimel Plaga Mincha, who Sha'arav Uravi Kodim Tzeitzakochovim. That's an hour and a quarter before Tzeitzakochovim. That's what we explained. That Plaga Mincha is 10 3/4 hours a day, which is an hour and a quarter before the end of the day. We calculated the time according to the length of the day, which is what we call Sho'is Zmanya, seasonal hours or halachic hours. And he can even make a bracha if he's lighting after Plaga Mincha, he can make a bracha on it. So if it doesn't burn at night, then there's no publicizing of the nace. If he lit after Plaga Mincha and he only put in enough oil to burn for half an hour, so it's now going to go out before nightfall, then he has to add more oil and relight. But he shouldn't make another bracha.
I've never heard of that before.
You've never heard of?
I mean, it makes perfect sense. Well, the only problem with it is, why did he light the first time so early?
So that's what he said. He knows he's not going to have time afterwards. He knows he's not going to be able to. Let's say he's got to catch a flight. He's flying.
But if that's true, then he can't add more oil afterwards.
So he lit the candles.
Right.
He put in only for half an hour's worth,
Right.
which isn't enough because he gets
So it
lighting
went
early.
out during daylight.
And he's just about to take his suitcases out of the house, and then someone says to him, "1 second, you didn't put enough oil in the menorah. It's not enough." So now he has to put in more, to put out the candles, put in enough oil, and relight. And then he goes off to catch his flight. Meaning he discovered his mistake before it was too late. That's
Okay, so this is if this is a b'diavad situation.
right. The whole situation was the first opinion is that the Shulchan Aruch wrote loy ma'achim v'loy makdimim. One should not light before.
Right.
Says like we mentioned as machlokes if it says like mashkir. One shouldn't light before that time.
Right.
If one's in a situation where one can't light after that time, for example, he has to catch a flight. That's probably a very common situation. He has to catch his flight. He can't light after the appropriate time. So then he's allowed to light earlier, as long as after Plaga Mincha. He has to make sure that he puts in enough oil to burn for half an hour after Tzeitzak Chum, after nightfall. The same as everyone does on Friday. Right? Friday afternoon, we always have to make sure we put in more oil to make sure it lasts for half an hour after night. So the same situation here. On Friday it's Lachat Chila, that's the only time you can light. And the rest of the week to light that early is not Lachat Chila. It's only in a situation where one won't be able to light afterwards. And then one has to make sure one puts in enough oil to burn for half an hour after night. If he realizes his mistake, that he didn't put enough oil to burn after nightfall, he has to add more oil and relight without a bracha.
So let's say he actually went and caught the flight, and the candles went out before sunset,
right,
before Shkia. Right? Has he fulfilled?
So he hasn't fulfilled the mitzvah. What he should do is he should quickly call up his neighbour and ask his neighbour to light for him. You can make a shliach. Someone to
or
light
or at
for
least
him.
to just put more oil and light. There's no bracha required, right?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Right,
To ask the neighbour, that's what I mean. To ask the neighbour to put in more oil and relight it.
Right.
Okay. Let's learn as if
In that case, he is fulfilled if his neighbour does it. Yeah? Or his home is fulfilled.
If he asks the neighbour to do it, then the neighbour is a shliach for him, and he's fulfilled the mitzvah.
Right.
The same way as a person has a chiyuv to do milah on his son, but we don't know how to do milah. We get ask the male to be our shliach to do it for us. We're making the mitzvah. Seif base. Let's go read the Shulchan Aruch now. Seif base. Shochach o hezed v'hidlik im shkiach sachamo madlik v'hoylech ad shetichle regel min hashuk kumoi chatzi shah. If he either inadvertently or purposely didn't light at Shkia Sachama, which is when he's supposed to light, which we mentioned in Machlokas if we're referring to sunset or nightfall. Some light at sunset, some light at nightfall. Madlik v'hoylech ad shetichle regel min hashuk. He can continue lighting until people stop walking around outside, shu kumoi chatzi shah, which is for half an hour. That's because that's when people are still walking around outside and there's pusum. So therefore one also has to put in enough oil for this amount of time, for this half an hour. Okay? So there's two halachas here to do with this halacha. There's the din of tichle regel min hashuk. Because the purpose of lighting the Chanukah lights is to publicize it for people outside. Therefore, there should be a light when people are still walking around outside, which in the time of the Gemara was half an hour. This is two nafkaminas halacha, two halachas come out of this. Number one is when he lights at Shkia, when he lights, he should make sure he has enough oil for that half an hour. That's the fun. Number two, if he didn't light at that time, he can still have the mitzvah. He can still light within that half an hour. He still fulfills the mitzvah. Right? That's two. Okay. Now the question is, what about nowadays? Because nowadays people are walking around outside for much longer than that. We have electric street light. We have street lights that work on electricity, and therefore people are walking around long after half an hour, especially Chanukah time when it gets dark at 4:30, 5 o'clock. People are walking around for another 5 hours outside. So most poskim say that the halachas are therefore changed. The halachas, there's no halacha of half an hour. The halacha is as long as people are still walking around outside, there's an inyan to publicize the nays. Therefore, both these halachas change. Now, if one puts in oil for more than half an hour, one lights at nightfall, and one puts in oil for 2 or 3 hours, one is fulfilling the mitzvah. It's not a waste of oil. In those days, if after the half an hour's up, if it burns afterwards, you're not publicising this. There's no pursuit minister. Nowadays, if a candle's burned for a few hours, you're being publicising the this. There's people outside. And number 2, if one can't light at nightfall, one has to light later. Then it's fine. It's okay. It's still within this. It's not the preferable time to light is at Ushkia. But if one can't, there's no one way one can leave one's work early and one returns home at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. There's still plenty of people walking around outside. He can still light. Right? Or if we talked about a flight, if he's flying in from abroad and he arrives, by the time he's only going to arrive at home at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, it's fine. There's still plenty of people walking around outside. He can still light with a bracha and fulfill the mitzvah.
It's an interesting question. If people, it's a time of year, particularly in more northern countries, where it gets light very late in the morning.
Right.
So you actually have people walking around like at 6 in the morning,
right,
going to work.
Right.
So if one lit while it is still dark and people are going out to work at 6 in the morning, I wonder if you fulfill.
That's an interesting question.
If the mitzvah is based on people walking around outside, not the time of day.
Right.
The question is still when.
This is an interesting question.
For when can you light?
Right. What's the latest? The latest is defined as when people stop walking around outside. So here the question is that people stop walking around outside.
Let's say people stop walking around outside at 3 in the morning or 2 in the morning, right? They're back from all their Hanukkah masivas, right? But they start again at 6 o'clock to go to work or to go to minyan.
It's still time.
So could you light at 5:30 in the morning?
It's an excellent question. Because l'chayra, until alois hashachar, it's still night time. Until daybreak, right? It's still night. Still night. I don't know. It's a very interesting
in
question.
Toronto, it's dark until 7 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
At this time of year.
Right.
So if you lit at 6...
I learned in Yeshiva in Kate said, Netzach HaMa, sunrise in the middle of the winter is 8:30.
Right. So what if you lit at, say, 7 o'clock? People are going to work.
7 o'clock. Yeah. Interesting question.
Something to think about.
Okay. We're going to see also, we talked about if someone can't light earlier, if let's say he arrives home much later, we're going to see there's also another option, even after people have stopped walking around outside, there's still an option to light. We'll see that in a minute. We're going to get to that. Let's say when someone arrives on a flight from abroad, he arrives only at 2 or 3 in the morning, there's no one walking outside, can he still light? We're going to see that soon.
If you answer the Haredi name, we can
If there are people sitting outside, then there's no problem. Yeah, let's carry on. We're still in the middle of the Shulchan Aruch. We're now on the 3rd line, near the end of the line. V'im nosan bo yoiser, yochol lachabois la'achar sho'avar ze hazman. If you put in more oil than that half an hour of people when people are walking outside, it's still burning and there's no one walking around outside. Then you can put it out because there's no purpose anymore. It's not publicising this. This we said has changed nowadays because nowadays people are still walking around even after that half an hour. Right? It would be relevant, let's say, if you put in so much oil that it's still burning at 2 o'clock in the morning, there's no one walking around outside, then you can put it out. There's no reason to be.
This is just to save money on the oil.
That's time it was getting expensive. That's time.
Yes.
Very expensive.
Also, we haven't seen it yet, that one is not allowed to derive benefit from the light of the menorah. But also, again, after this time of Tichlei Regem and Ashuk, after the time when no one's walking around outside, you can either put it out or we can leave it alight and have benefit from the lights. Right? Because there's no more mitzvah of the lights.
So you're saying to have use of would be just be half an hour?
Yes, which we said nowadays has changed. Nowadays it's going to be more than that. Nowadays, as he says in
You're saying
You can't have it both ways.
People stop. You say came back to when people stop walking outside.
Yes.
Then you can
Yes.
use the light.
Yes. In KarmiEl, actually, I think
in those times it was obviously very, very. It was the norm, I guess. Once the sun went down, it was dark. There was no lighting outside. People went to go home and went to bed early.
right,
There was no activity after
Right.
nightfall.
right. That's why the Gemara says, brought down in Shulchan Aruch, Lo ivri laila ela legirsa. Says that the nights were made for learning. So they said the Shulchan Aruch says you have to be very careful about the winter nights now to make use of them. People would stop working 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. What they're going to do? Just go to sleep? Well, that's what probably most people would do. But the Talmudic Hour would sit down with their candles and they'd sit learning the whole night. That was their opportunity to learn. So to be very careful. Those are the nights when nowadays things have changed. But these winter nights, these long winter nights, were the time when we could really learn lots of Torah. To be very careful. Nowadays things have changed. People are active because of electricity. What you mentioned that it's changed in Haredi areas, probably here in KarmiEl it's the other way around. Here in KarmiEl, people stop walking around very early.
I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I'm saying here. Here, it could be Tichler Regel Mashuk here is much earlier.
Your wedding there.
Yeah.
On Thursday evening.
Right. Yeah, it's like the middle of the day. But here is the complete opposite. Here it's a very sleepy town. It gets people start walking around very early. So maybe here's the other way around. Okay, let's continue. Okay. Hagor says the Rama. יש אומרים שבזמן הזה שמדליקים בפנים, אין צורך להיזהר להדליק קודם שתיך לרגל נפשוק. ומכל מקום טוב יוסי להיזהר גם בזמן הזה. It says the Rama that nowadays that we light indoors, it could be there's opinion that holds that one can light even after tich l'regel nafshuk, even after people walking around outside, because the main pursuit is for people indoors. However, says the Rama, even nowadays one should try lechatchila to light. To light before people start walking around outside. Okay, now we've added an extra stage to that. We said that nowadays it's changed for a different reason. Right? Even though the Moshe says Tov Yosel Lizor Gam Bisman Hazeh, nowadays we've got people walking around outside even later. So we have the reason of the Ramah, which is that if we were lighting for people indoors, then it's irrelevant if people stop walking around outside, because then it's to publicize for people indoors. On that, the Ramah says that one shouldn't rely on that. One should still light during that time when people are walking around outside. But now we've added an extra reason, which is that nowadays people are walking around outside till much later, and therefore one can light later.
So if you reverted to the process of lighting outside, and you're living in a sleepy town, you have to go back to the original principles.
Right.
Right.
Okay. ולהדליק מדליק והילך כל הלילה. ואם עובר כל הלילה ולהדליק אין לו תשלומים. Okay, so he says this is the chatchila, but b'di'evet he can light the whole night. Okay, he can light the whole night. And if the whole night went past and he didn't light, then ein lo tashlumin. Then he can't. There's nothing he can do about it. He's got the whole night to light. Let's see. And he says, let's just read the Amos, let's finish off. Even if he missed the first night or missed any night, the other nights he continues even if he didn't light the previous night. This is not like Sfiras Omer, but if you missed a night, then you can't light anymore, right? This is not dependent. Each night is an independent mitzvah. If you missed one, you can light another ones. Let's see the Mishabur Sukkot and Hay. Hilko Soch Litain V'chola Kazer V'chola Mashma Dem Hidlik Zman Ma Achash Kesa Chamo Ein Soch Litain Shemen Kol Kach Rak Ad Shetich L'Regel Mashuk Ochein Kol Ze Hu L'Din HaTalmud Shoya HaHekel Oivim V'Shovim Av Lo Idnet HaHekel Hu Rak Livnei Beis Lo Oilum Bo Yishir HaYodua. He's saying that if someone lit, in the time of the Gemara, if someone was to light late, let's say he lit a quarter of an hour after Shkia, he lit late. How much time is left until people start walking around outside? Only 15 minutes. He's missed half the time. So how much oil does he need to put in? Does he need to put in for half an hour or just for 15 minutes? The answer is he only has to put in for 15 minutes. The mitzvah is that it should be burning for that half an hour when people are walking around outside. If he lit 20 minutes late, then he only has to put in oil for 10 minutes. There's no point lighting for half an hour.
And has he fulfilled the mitzvah?
He's fulfilled the mitzvah to a lower level. He missed 20 minutes of the mitzvah. He only fulfilled 10 minutes of the half an hour.
So if he does it when there's only 1 minute left, he's still fulfilled the mitzvah.
He's fulfilled the mitzvah. He can light with the bracha,
right.
but it's not the same level of mitzvah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, though, that nowadays that we're lighting for people indoors, right? That one should always put in that share of half an hour.
It's interesting because it's almost like there's an exact time in the times of the Talmud.
Right.
When people stopped, it's like people said, no more, you can't walk anymore.
No, it's too dark.
outside.
It's too dark to walk around outside.
Right.
It's possibly dangerous as well.
Right.
It's very foreign, this concept to us. We're so used to electricity nowadays.
What?
We're so used to electricity nowadays, it's difficult to understand how they lived in those days. But
Yeah,
after
you're
5
right.
o'clock,
I mean,
they
it was
were
also,
indoors. That was it. It was indoors.
yeah, it was also a time in which bad people could take advantage of it at night,
Right.
I guess.
Right.
And you had to go out with a torch probably to see what you were doing.
Right. Someone who lights after someone who's lighting indoors and he's missed the time of lighting, there's no one walking around outside, he's lighting at 2 o'clock in the morning, he also should put in enough oil for this half an hour. So even nowadays one should put in enough oil for half an hour. And if he puts in more oil than this, then there's no mitzvah. So the Mishnah Berurah says that even nowadays there's no reason to put in oil for more than half an hour. So even nowadays there's no reason to put in oil for more than half an hour. Says with wax candles, even though one doesn't need them to burn for more than half an hour, long wax candles are definitely more elegant. They look much nicer. It's more of a hiddur mitzvah. However, they shouldn't be too long. Right? So if it's a nice big candle, it's more. It beautifies the mitzvah. Because of Rabbi Eliezer b'shem Orchos Chaim, mi sheberach v'hidlik ner achas b'layla shniya, yadlik achar kach oid ner achas v'lo yivorech. Someone who made a bracha and he lit one candle on the second night, he should light. He should light afterwards. He should add an extra light, like v'lo yivorech. Right? If he lit only one light, and then he gets a second one. The second one comes to his hand, or he realizes a mistake. He can light the second one
during the night.
Yes, that's right. Light the second one. He shouldn't make a bracha. So the Pri Megadim says one should, whatever the case, one should always light the second light without a bracha. Even if at the time when he lit the first one he had no intention of lighting a second one, and then suddenly he came across the second candle, he should light it without a bracha.
Does this raise a question that if you have to make the same decision that the Maccabees had to make, you have a limited amount of oil, so let's say it's the third night, you have enough to burn for a half hour in one, if you put all the oil in one place, but if you put the oil in 3 separate containers, it'll burn for a total of 10 minutes, each one of them, because you divide the oil. If you light later, you'll be fulfilling with 3 lights on the third night, as opposed to 1 light. The 2 are mehadrin, because you only need to light the first one. But you're publicizing the mitzvah for a shorter period of time.
Right. So we saw that if he hasn't got enough oil, he has to always make sure he has enough oil in one of them to light for the full half an hour. That's the priority.
Okay, that's the answer.
The priority is to always have one that lights for half an hour. If he has extra oil, then he splits out between the other lights.
Okay.
Sivkot Zayin Yochel Lechaboiso. V'chol she'einu maktzeh Hashem rak ma shetzorich l'shir chati she'ol hamitzvoseh. The oil in the candle, there's a halacha of huktzah lemitzvoseh. Once he lights the oil with the intention of it burning for the mitzvah of CHANUKAH, that oil is, one may not have benefit anymore from that oil. Even if the candle was to blow out and it didn't actually burn, that oil is huktzah lemitzvoseh, set aside for the mitzvah of CHANUKAH. You cannot use it for doing his cooking. Right? So you cannot use it for anything else.
You can use it for the next night?
You can use it for the next night.
Okay.
But you can't use it. Right. Now, says the Mishabur that he only sets aside for the mitzvah oil, for that enough oil to burn for half an hour. Any other oil in the inside the glass, inside the lamp, is not hooked in the mitzvah. He's only setting aside enough oil to burn for half an hour.
So he's not designating a jug of oil for Hanukkah.
That's
let's
right.
say he's
That's
doing
right.
it individually by night by
That's right.
container.
That's right. Half an hour's worth of oil is set aside for the mitzvah. Therefore, you can put out the candle and you can have benefit from it. You can use it to fry his donuts. However, the Achronim said that preferably the Chatchila, one should make a Tanai, one should say clearly that he's only setting aside enough oil to burn for half an hour. It is preferable to do that. There are some opinions who hold that all the oil inside the lamp is set aside for the mitzvah. Even though we don't paskin like that opinion, we hold that Mikra Adin, we hold that only half an hour's worth is set aside for the mitzvah. However, in order to be choshesh, and for those opinions that hold all the oil in the lamp is set aside for the mitzvah, therefore one should preferably make a clear condition, say aloud, that he's only setting aside half an hour's worth of oil, and then according to everyone, he can use the mitzvah for his donuts. He can use the oil for his donuts. So if gotten ches l'shtamish l'oiro, we saw in the Shulchan Aruch that after this half an hour he's allowed to have benefit. Says the Mishnah verse of Cotton Ches, l'shtamish l'oiro v'chola, v'yesh machmirim shebe'od sh'aneres dolkin, ein l'shtamish l'oiro. Some hold that even after this half an hour period, one shouldn't derive benefit from the candles, because the person looking, someone who looks, doesn't know that they've been burning already for half an hour. Someone who looks sees them having benefit from the neiros, from the lights, and he doesn't realise it's past the half an hour, and they'll come to think it's permitted. Therefore, preferably one shouldn't have benefit from the lights of the menorah even after the half an hour. Though one can do what we mentioned, one can put it out and one can use it for one's donuts, that one can do. So if Cotton Tess, that this is the Ramah, who says the thing as nowadays we're lighting for people indoors, therefore it's not dependent at all when people are walking around outside. And one can even light afterwards. If he didn't manage to light at the correct time, he can even light after this time. So if he should light when the people in the house are around, when everyone should gather together, everyone in the house should gather together, and he lights for everyone in the house to see. After the time when it's reached the time of lighting, which is either shki or tzeit, depending on when he lights. After this time, one may not learn, one may not eat, one may not start any melacha, any work. One shouldn't start. One should light straight away. So if Cotton Yud Aleph Kol HaLayla, this we said that if someone didn't light, one right time very late, one was not able to light in the correct time, one can light Kol HaLayla the whole night, Ad Amud HaShachar until daybreak, and with a bracha. V'hainu dafke in Bnei HaBayis in Oirim. This is only if people in the house are still awake. Avelim Yishainim, ein levarach aleim. If they're sleeping, he can't make a bracha. Ela yadlik below bracha. He should light without a bracha. To kamod delididhu loy hayim mavorich ela bizman pirusum anes. Hachanam elididon. If everyone in the house is sleeping, then he can't light.
But wait a second, he's not sleeping.
He's not sleeping, but he has to publicize the nace for someone. It has to either be for the people outside or the people indoors. So there's no one walking around outside, so he's publicizing for the people inside his house. So it's only if people are awake. If there's no one awake inside his house, it's like tichle regel min habayis. There's no one walking around in the house.
But let's say a person lives on their own,
Right.
and they don't have windows facing the street.
Right.
Then if they're lighting candles and they're the only ones at home, they're not fulfilling the mitzvah.
That's an interesting
Like
question.
you can't publicize it to yourself.
That's an interesting question. He should light. He has to light. You're saying, so what's the difference between that and this case?
Well, are there two different
That's an
mitzvahs?
excellent question. I have to look into that. I don't know.
It raises the question, are there two different mitzvahs? One is publicizing the mitzvah, and the other is lighting the candles.
It's not two different mitzvahs. It's one mitzvah. It's the definition of the mitzvah. The definition of the mitzvah is to light in a way that you are publicizing the nace. And therefore, if one's lighting when one's asleep, then one is not publicizing the nace. So you're asking an excellent question. What happens if someone lives alone and he hasn't got a window facing the streets? He's lighting indoors. Surely he's not publicizing the nace.
There's the idea if you have a seder and you're by yourself, you still ask and answer the 4 questions.
Right.
As
Correct.
part of the seder.
Correct.
Right.
That's correct. I have to look at it. It's an excellent question. If he comes home before daybreak, he should wake them up so he can light with the bracha. He comes home very, very late. He comes home at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. He should wake up people so that they can see it. Okay? So this takes us back to your question.
Yeah.
Right? Which is the people are let's say he comes home at 2 o'clock in the morning. There's no one walking around outside. Okay? He has 2 options. He can either light now, or he can wait until 6 o'clock and light at 6 o'clock when people are walking around outside.
Right.
That's really the question. Should he wait until 6 o'clock when people are walking around outside? So at 2 o'clock, let's say there's people walking. If there's people in his house who are awake, then he can light them for the people in the house, right? If everyone's sleeping,
It's an interesting question. Should you steal their sleep
should he right?
in order to fulfill the mitzvah,
Right.
or should you wait?
So here he says if it's late, if it's before Eliezer Shachar, he should wake them up. Says that he should wake them up in order to fulfill the mitzvah. It's their mitzvah as well. It's not just it's not just his mitzvah. It's their mitzvah. It's the mitzvah for the whole house.
Right.
The problem was also he's not going to be if we tell him at 2 o'clock in the morning not to light, then there's a good chance he's going to fall asleep and he's going to miss the mitzvah.
That's right.
So it's probably not a good idea to, like we saw. There's an issa to eat. There's an issa to land. There's an issa to sleep. You're not allowed to do anything before you light.
Right.
So the option would be just to sit around there doing nothing, waiting until 5, 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock when people walk around town. He's probably not going to want to do that. He's probably very tired and might even drop off. So probably he should light straight away. Answer is he should probably light straight away. If everyone's sleeping, then he should wake people up. He should wake people up. If he waits until 6 o'clock, then he's probably going to miss it. There's a good chance he's going to drop off and he's going to miss it. But in the situation when he only arrived home at 6 o'clock, then he should light at 6 o'clock. And like you said, if there are people already walking around outside, it's excellent. He's bringing home the mitzvah. There's people publicizing this for people outside. Okay. There's just one more Mishabula, so you said Kudmi base. This is talking about if someone missed one of the nights. It's not like Tzvus Omer, you can light every other night with a bracha. He doesn't light only if you missed the first night. On the second night he lights 2, even though he never lit 1 candle. He doesn't start with the second night with 1. He starts the second night with 2 like everyone else.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
You asked me about where you can buy supplies.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's 2 options. There's the yeshiva.